Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of the US Fireplace Store Podcast. I'm Kieran.
And I'm River. Hey, everybody.
So, River, how are you? Enjoying this warmer weather we're finally getting?
I am. Definitely feeling the spring vibes. Just grabbed a coffee, actually. Ready for our first episode?
Absolutely. Feeling good and excited to kick things off.
So what are we diving into today?
Well, one of the biggest questions we get all the time at the store is about electric fireplaces. And, people want to know, do they actually put out any heat? Or is it really just, for the looks?
Totally. It's a huge question, especially if you're trying to decide how to heat your space.
Exactly. You see these beautiful electric fireplaces. They look so sleek and modern, but are they actually going to make a difference when it's cold outside?
Are they actually functional?
So that's what we're going to figure out today. We're doing a deep dive into electric fireplaces as a heat source.
Awesome.
So to start off, can you just give us the basics? What exactly is an electric fireplace?
Sure. So basically, an electric fireplace is designed to give you that look and feel of a traditional fireplace. The flickering flames, the cozy vibes.
Right.
But it does it all without needing a chimney or burning any wood or gas.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a modern take on the classic fireplace.
Exactly. And they come in all sorts of styles now.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them.
Yeah, you've got your built-in units that look super seamless,
Sure.
freestanding models that you can move around, even electric log sets that you can just put right into an existing fireplace.
Wow. So there really is something for everyone.
Pretty much. And they're generally pretty affordable to buy and run. Plus, they're super easy to use.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
And they've come a long way in terms of technology. They're not just some basic heater with a fake flame anymore.
So that brings us to the big question. Can these things actually heat a room?
Yes, they can. Most electric fireplaces are designed to function as supplemental heat sources.
Okay, so like a space heater?
Exactly. They can warm up a specific area in your home.
So how does that work? I mean, there's no real fire in there.
Right. It's all about joule heating.
Joule heating, okay.
Basically, the fireplace uses materials that are electrically conductive, but also resist the flow of electricity. Usually, it's an alloy with nickel and chromium, sometimes called nichrome wire.
Okay.
When electricity passes through those materials, the resistance turns that electrical energy into heat energy.
So it's kind of like how the coils in a toaster get red hot.
Exactly the same principle.
That's pretty neat.
So then that heat gets transferred to a heating element, and a little fan blows the warm air out into the room.
Oh, okay. So it's super efficient.
Very efficient. And then, of course, you've got the flames, which are actually just LEDs and mirrors creating that realistic fire effect.
I always wondered how they did that.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
It is. So now we know they can heat a room. But how much heat are we talking about? Can they actually make a difference in the winter?
They can absolutely make a noticeable difference.
Okay, good.
One of the best things about electric fireplaces is their efficiency.
Okay.
They convert almost 100% of the electricity they use directly into heat.
Wow. So almost no energy is wasted.
Right, which makes them a very cost-effective and energy-efficient way to add heat to a room.
That's much better than my old wood-burning fireplace.
Oh, yeah. With those, you lose so much heat up the chimney.
And don't forget all the smoke and emissions.
That's true with electric fireplaces. You don't have to worry about any of that.
Much better for the environment and our lungs.
Definitely.
So when we're talking about the power of an electric fireplace, the key measurement is BTUs per hour. And that tells us how much heat the fireplace can produce.
Exactly. And some of the more powerful electric fireplaces, especially the ones that are hardwired into a 220V circuit, can get up to around 10,000 BTUs.
10,000 BTUs? That's a lot.
It is.
So for those of us who don't speak BTU, What does that actually mean?
Well, a BTU is basically a unit of energy.
Okay.
It's the amount of energy it takes to heat or cool 1 pound of water by 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So a simple way to think about it is to take the square footage of the room you want to heat
Right.
and multiply that by 20 BTUs.
Okay, so for example, if I have a living room that's about 250 square feet,
Right.
I'd need an electric fireplace with around 5,000 BTUs.
Exactly. That's a good starting point.
That makes sense.
And remember, different electric fireplaces have different heating capacities.
Right. Some are more powerful than others. So walk us through the different levels.
Sure. You've got your low-end models, maybe 700 to 1,500 BTUs per hour. These are good for small spaces, a small office, a reading nook,
Right.
where you just want a little extra warmth.
What about the middle ground?
Mid-range models are usually 4,000 to 9,000 BTUs. These are good for heating a single room, Think living room, a bigger bedroom.
Makes sense. So for an average family room, you'd be in that range. And then what about the really powerful ones?
Those are the high-end models. They can go from 10,000 BTUs up to 40,000. They can heat larger spaces, even some outdoor areas. And for those high outputs, over 10,000 BTUs, they usually need a 220V hardwired connection.
That's quite a range. Shows how versatile they are. And we have a table here that breaks down the typical BTU output for different types of electric fireplaces. Let's go through some of them.
Sure. Built-in electric fireplaces usually top out around 9,000 BTUs per hour. Electric fireboxes, the ones that go into existing fireplace openings, are in a similar range, maybe 4,000 to 9,000 BTUs. Then you've got see-through fireplaces, which are visible from two sides. Those go a bit higher, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 BTUs.
Okay, so those are some of the integrated options. What about the ones that are more like standalone units, like inserts or log sets?
Electric fireplace inserts, the ones you put into an existing fireplace, have a wider range, 700 to 5,000 BTUs. It depends on the model. Electric fireplace log sets, those give you the look of burning logs. They usually output 3,000 to 6,000 BTUs per hour.
And those sleek linear electric fireplaces, what kind of heat output do they have?
They're usually around 5,000 to 10,000 BTUs, similar to the see-through models. Electric stoves, the freestanding ones, typically provide 4,000 to 5,000 BTUs.
And then we have water vapor fireplaces. The table says minimal heating unless they have an additional accessory. That makes sense, right? Their main thing is those super realistic flames.
Yeah, any heat they provide is usually secondary. And of course, electric patio heaters. Those are built for the outdoors. They have the highest BTU range, 10,000 to 40,000 BTUs per hour.
So we've talked about BTUs,
Yeah.
but how does that translate into actual room size? How big of a space can these fireplaces actually heat?
A good question. In theory, some electric fireplaces could heat up to 1,000 square feet. But that depends on the model and its BTUs. It's not just about the numbers. Things like room dimensions, layout, how well insulated the room is, even where you place the fireplace, all of that affects how the heat spreads and how warm it feels.
So you could have a high BTU fireplace, but if the room's drafty and poorly insulated, it's not going to feel as warm as a less powerful one in a well-sealed room.
Exactly. And ceiling height matters too. Higher ceilings mean more space to heat. And windows. Windows can lose a lot of heat.
So what are some guidelines for choosing the right fireplace based on the size of the room?
For rooms up to 400 square feet, something around 5,000 BTU should be enough. A smaller electric stove or insert. For 400 to 600 square feet, you'd want 5,000 to 10,000 BTUs, maybe a medium-sized traditional or linear fireplace.
And bigger rooms.
If you're between 600 and 900 square feet, you'd probably need 9,000 to 15,000 BTUs. Something like a larger built-in or a more powerful linear model. And for outdoor areas, those patio heaters start around 10,000 BTUs and go up from there. It depends on the size and how open the space is.
That's super helpful. And we have another table here that shows the approximate coverage area for different types of electric fireplaces.
Right. Built-ins usually cover around 450 square feet. Electric fireboxes, those are about 200 to 450 square feet. See-through and linear models are similar, 250 to 500 square feet.
And inserts. They have quite a range listed, 35 to 250 square feet. I guess that reflects the different sizes and heat outputs.
Exactly. Electric stoves usually cover around 200 to 250 square feet. Log sets are around 150 to 300. And water vapor fireplaces, they're listed as display only for heating.
And of course, patio heaters, they cover the biggest areas, anywhere from 500 to 2,000 square feet.
That's right. So you have a good sense of the heating power and the area you can warm. So now let's talk cost. How much electricity do these things use? How much does it cost to run them?
Yeah, that's a big factor for a lot of people.
It is. The cost per hour depends on how you're using the fireplace.
So just having the flames on for ambiance will cost less than actually using the heater.
Definitely. When the heating element is on, a typical fireplace might use about 1,500 watts per hour. That's 1.5 kilowatts. But if you're just using the flame effect, it's way less, under 300 watts usually.
So how much money are we talking about?
Let's say the average electricity cost is 12 cents per kilowatt hour. If you're using the heater at 1.5 kilowatts per hour, it'll cost about 18 cents per hour. But just the flames, that's only about 4 cents per hour.
Wow, that's pretty efficient, especially if you're just going for the visual effect.
And remember, there are no yearly maintenance costs like you'd have with a gas or wood fireplace. No chimney cleaning, no inspections.
And no buying and storing fuel.
Exactly. That can add up over time.
We actually have a table here that estimates the hourly costs for different types of fireplaces. Let's take a look.
Okay, so for built-ins, the estimated cost is between 11 and 22 cents per hour. Electric fireboxes are a bit higher, 20 to 25 cents. See-through and insert fireplaces are similar, around 22 to 27 cents per hour.
Water vapor fireplaces are the cheapest on the list. Only 2 to 7 cents per hour. Again, that's because they use so little energy for the flame effect.
Right. Electric stoves are like the built-ins,
Huh.
around 11 to 22 cents. Linear fireplaces have a wider range, 22 to 45 cents, probably depending on the heat setting. Log sets are about 14 to 22 cents per hour. And the patio heaters, those can be anywhere from 45 cents to $1.80 per hour. Depends on the wattage and how much heat they're putting out.
Important to remember these are just estimates. The actual cost will depend on your local electricity rates.
Always check with your utility company for the most accurate info.
So we've talked a lot about the benefits of electric fireplaces. But for someone who's still on the fence, why should they choose electric over a traditional fireplace?
Well, one big one is direct heat. Electric fireplaces provide very direct heat.
Okay.
They use those electrical coils and fans to distribute the warmth evenly throughout the room.
Uh-huh.
And many models have thermostats, so you can set it and forget it.
Oh, that's convenient.
Right, traditional fireplaces, on the other hand, can have uneven heat distribution.
So you might be really hot right next to the fire, but cold everywhere else.
Exactly.
Okay. And then there's the no flames thing,
Yeah.
which seems strange for a fireplace. But it's a good thing, right?
Oh, yeah. It looks like fire, but there's no actual burning, so you can have the cozy atmosphere any time of year, even when it's warm outside.
Yeah.
And it's safer. No fire hazard, no burns. Especially important if you have kids or pets.
Huge safety benefit there. So we've got direct heat, consistent temperatures, no actual flames. What about the environmental impact compared to traditional fireplaces?
Electric fireplaces are definitely better for the environment. They're more efficient and cleaner. They don't produce smoke or emissions. Traditional fireplaces, with all the burning,
Yeah.
they release pollutants and lose a lot of heat.
And installation seems way easier with electric fireplaces. No chimneys or gas lines to worry about.
Exactly. Most models just plug into a regular outlet. Some bigger ones might need to be hardwired, but overall, it's much simpler and cheaper than installing a traditional fireplace. Plus, many electric fireplaces are portable. You can move them around. Can't do that with a built-in fireplace.
Right, that portability is great,
Mm-hmm.
especially for renters. So to recap, we've got convenience, safety, efficiency, clean energy, and easy installation. Those are some pretty compelling reasons to choose electric.
I'd say so.
Okay, so let's talk about maintenance. How do you keep an electric fireplace running smoothly?
Well, the good news is that electric fireplaces are relatively low maintenance.
That's always good to hear.
But there are a few things you should do to keep them in good shape.
Like what?
The most important thing is to always unplug the fireplace before you do any cleaning or maintenance.
Okay, safety first.
Exactly. You don't want to risk any electrical shocks.
Makes sense.
For the exterior glass panel, you can just use a damp cloth and some mild soap.
Yeah.
Avoid any harsh chemicals or flammable cleaners.
Got it.
For the air vents and fan areas, use a soft brush attachment on your vacuum cleaner to remove any dust.
Oh, good idea. I hate when things get dusty.
Me too. Keeping those areas clean is important for good airflow and preventing overheating.
Okay.
You should also inspect the electrical wiring and components periodically.
Right.
Look for any frayed wires or loose connections.
Mhm.
If you see anything that looks damaged, call a qualified electrician.
Don't mess around with electricity.
Definitely not. And also check the light bulbs for the flame effect.
Okay.
Replace them if they burn out.
Makes sense.
And if you have a remote control, check the batteries and make sure the buttons are working.
So just a few basic checks.
Yeah, and it's always a good idea to give the fireplace a more thorough inspection before winter.
Good thinking.
And of course, always refer to your owner's manual for any specific recommendations.
The owner's manual is your friend.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of information, but I'm sure our listeners still have some questions.
Probably.
So let's go through some of them.
Okay.
First one, how does the heating effectiveness of an electric fireplace compare to a traditional wood or gas fireplace?
Well, as we talked about, electric fireplaces are incredibly efficient.
Right.
They convert almost 100% of their energy into heat, and you can control the temperature with a thermostat.
Mhm.
Traditional wood fireplaces are much less efficient.
Right.
Only about 10 to 30% of the heat actually ends up in the room.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is, and gas fireplaces are better, but they still lose some heat through venting.
Okay, what about factors that can affect the heating efficiency of an electric fireplace?
There are a few things to consider.
Like what?
The ambient temperature of the room, the level of insulation, any drafts the size of the room, and of course the BTU output and fan power of the fireplace itself.
Okay, makes sense. Can an electric fireplace be someone's primary source of heat?
Well, they can definitely generate a good amount of heat,
Right.
but they're generally best as a supplemental heat source for small to medium-sized rooms.
Okay.
They can help reduce your reliance on central heating, but they're not really designed to heat an entire house, especially in really cold climates.
Okay, so maybe not for Alaska.
Probably not.
Here's a question I get a lot. Is it safe to mount a TV above an electric fireplace?
It usually is.
Okay, good.
But you need to make sure there's enough clearance between the fireplace and the TV so it doesn't overheat.
Right.
Always check the owner's manuals for both the fireplace and the TV for specific recommendations.
And make sure it's mounted securely. What about the lifespan of an electric fireplace? How long do they typically last?
With proper care and maintenance, they can last anywhere from 10 to 20 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it really depends on the quality of the components and how well you take care of it.
Okay, can you use an electric fireplace without turning on the heat?
Yes, most models let you run the flame effect independently of the heater.
Well, that's cool. So you can have that cozy ambiance even in the summer.
Exactly.
Okay, last question. How safe are electric fireplaces?
Very safe.
Good.
There are no real flames or sparks, and they don't produce any carbon monoxide.
Ah,
Plus, the glass front usually stays cool to the touch.
so it's a good option for families with kids or pets.
Definitely much safer than traditional fireplaces.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
So to wrap things up, it seems like electric fireplaces are a great way to add both warmth and ambiance to your home.
Definitely. They're much more than just decorative pieces.
Right. The heating technology has come a long way.
And when you consider the efficiency, the cost savings, the safety features, and the ease of maintenance,
Yeah, it's hard to beat.
it really is.
So if you're looking for a way to add some extra warmth and style to your space,
An electric fireplace might be the perfect solution.
if you're interested in exploring our selection of electric fireplaces, visit us online at usfireplacestore.com.
And if you have any questions or need help choosing the perfect fireplace, give us a call. You can reach us at 888-992-1556.
We're always happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect fireplace for your needs.
And as you're thinking about your options,
Consider how that cozy fireplace ambiance and the extra warmth could really transform your living space
you might even be able to reduce your reliance on central heating.
and save some money in the process.
Thanks for joining us for this first episode of the US Fireplace Store Podcast.
We're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to chat with you again soon.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.